topics, faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
You would be amazed how many times a leader, with just a few words, can actually change the outcome of a relationship, change the motivation of a team member, an employee, or even a vendor. It doesn't take a whole lot. It just takes intentionality. It takes the willingness of the leader to maybe humble themselves just a little bit, and it takes the ability to recognize work done well. There are 7 secret words that great leaders know, and they know how to use them to build stronger working relationships. And that's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.
I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and I remember walking through the fire department. I think I just got my Airman First Class, which is like the second promotion that you can get when you're on active duty as a firefighter in the Air Force. And I remember getting a new crew chief. And this new crew chief was an interesting guy. A lot of people referred to him as Magoo because he had really, really thick glasses. But he was a guy that I didn't recognize from a previous assignment. See, when I was in Honduras, I had a run-in with a guy who was a real jerk. I mean, a real jerk. His favorite phrase was, "It's not what you know, it's who you know." And he would smooth with, lie to, manipulate anybody he could. He was probably one of the most effective narcissists I've ever met in my life. Of course, I didn't know that word back then. I was only 23. But when I met this guy, he had a real axe to grind against me. He hated me because I was alive. He did everything he could to sabotage. He did everything he could to talk bad about, everything he could to get me in trouble. And this just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. And I fought against him as much as I could. But at one point, he really brought things to a boil and tried to fry me in front of other people. The irony was, this guy who was my new crew chief, he had been my crew chief before, somewhere else. And when he saw this guy really going after me, he said, "You know what? I think I can handle Norris. And give me this troubled airman. Give me this guy who's a whole lot of problem for everybody else. I'll become his crew chief. I'll become his training sergeant, and I will walk him through this." And we built a strong relationship. But you know what was really powerful? Was that although I didn't remember him from being a crew chief before, I didn't remember him being on my team before, when I met him the second time, one of the things he said to me was, "I remember watching you handle the adversity when we were assigned together before. And the way you handled it was way above your pay grade, your maturity, your age range. Nobody expected you to come through that moment the way you did." Now, I can just tell you that here I am 30 plus years later, and I still remember that conversation. I remember where we were standing when it happened. I remember the words that he said. And I'll never forget the impact that it made in my life as a young NCO. I wasn't even an NCO yet. I was still an airman. But in my military career, in my relationships, and in my study of leadership since then, those words still resonate with me. Why? Well, because especially when you grow up the only son of a single mom without a dad to say, I'm proud of you, sometimes those accolades, they're hard to find. Sometimes just the expression that you've accomplished something, it's hard to get. And if you've ever been the kind of person who lives for the approval of others, which most of us have, you've waited for somebody to at least acknowledge that you've done something well. You've looked to be a people pleaser. You've looked for the attention. You've looked for a moment to be proud of in your life. If you're that kind of person, if you're that kind of human, which unfortunately about 80% of humans are, and I'm sad to say in this generation that we're in right now, with less parental engagement as our young people are growing older, that gap is only going to get wider. There's only going to be more people who need someone to acknowledge their presence and their accomplishments. That isn't becoming a greater abundance of confirmation in this world. It's becoming a greater lack. And there are 7 secret words that leaders know. They know how to use them, and they use them judiciously, but also liberally. And here's what I mean by that. They don't hold those 7 words back because they know that those 7 words can mean the difference sometimes between someone quitting the job and someone digging in deeper in the job. They can mean sometimes someone committing suicide or holding on for dear life, someone fighting through a relationship that's troublesome or a circumstance that's troublesome, or giving up altogether. And because they know those things to be true, those 7 secret words, they're sprinkled in every opportunity, but they're not wasted. Let me say, when you liberally use phrases to the point that they become not only redundant, but habitual, they become something that people kind of expect you to say. They lose their power, like the boy who cried wolf. These seven words have that kind of impact on someone's life that if you waste them by using them trivially, they lose their power. When you place them properly in the relationship, properly in the context of the circumstances or the situation, properly in that you have the influence or the authority in somebody's life for those words to actually matter, they mean something because they know that you know what you're talking about. When all those conditions are right and you use these seven words can transform a working relationship with a vendor, with an employee, with a peer, even with a superior. That one might take you a minute to get through. There's a great book by John Maxwell called 360-Degree Leader. And that 360-degree leader concept is, how do I influence those, not just below me in my chain of command or who answer to me, but also those on the same plane with me and those above me, those that I report to. How do I influence them? And the 360 Leader is a great book, a great concept, has some great ideas to do that. These seven words fall right in line with the theories and the practices of the 360-degree leader. They also fall very much in line with the 5 levels of leadership by John Maxwell as well. And I would encourage you to memorize these 6 words. They may be like a grasper or a prickly pear trying to come off your tongue, especially if you haven't heard them a lot. Saying them is even harder when you haven't heard them. Have you ever watched the old Happy Days, the sitcom from the 60s and 70s? It was set in the late 50s and everybody was cool and everybody was, chic and everybody loved the Fonz. But if you ever saw the episodes where the Fonz had to say, "I'm sorry, I was wrong," those were hard words for him to say. It just wasn't cool to apologize. It wasn't cool to have to say, "I messed something up and I'm sorry for it. I'm sorry." He just couldn't do it. He couldn't say, "I'm sorry, I was wrong." Those are not the magic words, the secret words. But the 7 secret words that I'm about to share with you, those 7 secret words have just as much impact on somebody if they've never heard them or they're not comfortable speaking them, those 7 words are going to be just about as hard as Fonzie's I'm sorry. I hope by now you've got a pencil ready. If you haven't heard these words before, now's a great time to write them down. Here you go. Here's your 7 secret words to transform any working relationship. Good job. I am proud of you. That's it. Those 7 words are a secret formula that will transform working relationships. Now, you've got to be genuine. You've got to be authentic. You've got to be real and honest when you say these words. These are not flippant words like good morning and how are you. If you start making them words like that everybody hears you say, they mean less and less and less and less every time you say them. Now, the first couple of times, people might be in shock. Wait, what? Say that again? You might have to repeat yourself. You might find that you need a big, you got to get the cactus out of your throat. You're going to have to have a big glass of water or a swig of coffee before you can come forward with these words because they're hard to utter. And the less you've heard them, the harder they are to utter. But they're a secret formula. And if you will make the time to identify the opportunities to use those 7 secret words, good job. I'm proud of you. In conversations where it's appropriate, in the lives of people that you influence, you will touch the hearts of people that you lead in a way like you never have before. Oh yeah, you've got to exhibit a little bit of humility to be able to tell someone else they've done a great job. You've got to be honest about who they are and what they've done. And don't make this like the brownie button that everybody gets, the ribbon just for showing up. It's not a participation trophy. Good job, I'm proud of you is a first place prize. It should be. It should be treated that way by you. It should be received that way by those that you give it to. This is another way that leaders lead the narrative. Because a whole lot of leaders only have words to say when it's critical, when they're critiquing, when they're correcting. Otherwise, they're silent. They hang out in the back of the room and wait for you to fail so they can mock it. If you want to be the kind of leader that genuinely transforms a workplace, transforms the hearts and minds of the people you work with and for, those 7 secret words can change anybody. Try it. Judiciously. Be cautious. Be intentional. Be looking for genuine moments of wow that you can say to someone, good job. I'm proud of you. And you will make an impact in this world like you would never imagine. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Lauren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Lauren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Lauren will serve you well.
Thank you.